So now we're going to format the menu, and we're going to do the actual formatting of it for look and feel, and we'll do the positioning of it in another movie. So we're going to start by copying this start nav and renaming it to main.css. And you'll notice that our home page here has no formatting because there was no main.css when we loaded that. If I go ahead and hit the reload button up here in Firefox, we'll see that we now have the layout just as we left it off at the end of the home movie. So I'll go ahead and open this in my editor. This is the BB Edit on a Macintosh. And scroll down here to the section we're going to be working on, which is the menu section right after the menu home paragraph. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here and remove this padding right 30 pixels, which we're not going to use anymore. This will get in our way a little bit later, so I want to get it out of the way right now. What this is from the original design with just the text menu, this gave some padding between the link elements. And I'm just going to go ahead and remove that 30 pixels. And that'll help us with our formatting as we move along here. Now in the menu top ID selector, this is for the div that surrounds the entire menu. I'm going to set the position mode to relative. Now what that does is that makes this div a candidate for a reference point for absolute positioning later on. If you want more detail about this, I suggest you look at my CSS positioning title, which has a whole section on this relative positioning and why it's a misnomer and why it's confusing. The bottom line is mostly what this is used for, and in this case exactly what this is used for, is just to make this div a reference point for the absolute positioning that comes along later. So that doesn't actually change the formatting at all. Removing that padding over there would change the formatting. But if we save this and go ahead and reload over here, we'll see that all that happens is that moves over those 30 pixels because that padding is no longer in the way. And this now looks exactly like it did at the end of formatting the home link. Now we're going to remove this menu top P margin 0 stuff because we're not using that anymore. And that was a remnant from the original design. We're going to go ahead and start doing some formatting for our list elements. We'll start with the UL and the UI margins. So we have menu top UL and menu top LI. And what this is a way of selecting an element that's contained within another element. So all ULs that are contained within the menu top ID selector and all LIs that are in that context will have 0 margin and 0 padding. Now we'll go and do some formatting to them separately. Menu top UL. We're going to set its list style type to none. And what that does is that actually gets rid of these dots. And so let's go ahead and reload, and we'll see that there's now no dots there. And this also got moved up because of these margins being set to 0. Go ahead and set the style for the list items in the same context. Set them to block mode. That allows us to give specific dimensions to each of these elements. Set the background color to match the background, and now we'll give the dimensions: width 110 pixels, height 20 pixels, margin. This will be 0 at the top, 3 pixels on the right, and then 0 and 0 on the bottom and left. No padding, and a white border on the left. Save and go ahead and reload, and you can see that now we have this nice, everything has this consistent width. That's going to make it really easy for positioning later on. Finally, we're going to format the anchor elements. Now when I make these anchor elements into a block mode, Watch what happens. I'm going to save, but I'm not going to reload in the browser. So we can see the way that it was when they're not in block mode. If I want to click on gifts, for example, I need to move my cursor right over that, and it's a pretty small target. It might work better if I could click on anything out here and they would all be links. That's actually even more important when you're doing dynamic menus because there's other events that are triggered by the hover over the link. So you want this whole area to be active. So when I hit reload, because I've switched it to block mode, nothing changes visually, but now those anchor links go all the way out to the edges of the containing box. So these links are active all the way to the edge. So that's why we put the links in block mode. Now let's just give it a little bit of margin and padding. Margin 0, padding 0 top and bottom, and 3 pixels left and right. Oh, I missed the colon. Let me put that colon in. And we'll reload. And you see that we got that 3 pixels of padding on the left. We also have 3 pixels of padding on the right. It's just a little bit harder to see. All right. And that's it. We have now formatted our links. So this is all of the formatting. Now you'll notice it's still all in a row like this. When we do the positioning, we'll get this organized in the way that it'll look in our final dynamic menus.